Chapter 90. Help, I'm drowning. Or have I learned to float? But floating is not living. Gotta find myself a boat. It was not until a tear landed on her hand that she noticed she was crying. Jenny and the rest of the band were picking up instruments, cables and mics after her gig. She quickly wiped the tear away, but Kevin saw it. He saw her pain. He put his guitar in its case and walked towards her with long strides. What's wrong? What happened? What had happened? How could you possibly answer that? The whole winter had been a mess. The little security she had felt had been shattered. In recent months she had barely seen Diego. He had come to her, but he still didn't allow her to come to him. He had had various injuries that had been more or less serious, but he never wanted to talk to her about what had happened. He kept repeating the mantra, the less you know the better. The horrible situation didn't seem to bother him. On the contrary, living dangerously made him feel alive. What she hated most was that her sanctuary was lost. She still remembered how she had felt the first nights she had slept in his barracks, hidden from the world, safe somehow. Now that was destroyed. Security was nowhere to be found. The sanctuary was nowhere to be found. She understood very well what Malka meant when she spoke of violence as something that inexorably escalated. To think that Diego would survive this lifestyle forever was, of course, naive. He was strong, he was used to fighting, but there could always be someone who was stronger, someone who wouldn't shy away from using weapons. It was just a matter of time. She knew it, and it scared her. Diego, her hero, her security. How could she tell Kevin that Diego was playing with fire and that Jenny knew sooner or later he would end up in one that would kill him? How could she talk to him about her broken life when he had just gotten engaged to Agneta? When they had just gotten hold of an apartment in Hisingen that they would soon move into? The successful, happy people. They were about to become a part of them. She had once had that within reach, but when that happened, she had been cut off from that possibility. No, she couldn't tell him, even though he was sitting next to her with his arm around her shoulders and looking at her with his caring brown eyes. She just couldn't. But she could tell him about her dream. I had a nightmare. His nod urged her to continue. I was drowning. I couldn't get air and I didn't know in which direction to go. I tried to swim upwards but didn't know where upwards was. Then I heard your voice. His arms squeezed her even more tightly. You called out to me, but your voice was far away. I couldn't come to you. Eventually I came to the surface. I was in the middle of strong rapids and the currents pulled me away. You were on the beach and you reached out to me, but you didn't reach me. Then she interrupted herself abruptly. I'm just telling the dream as it was, not to make you feel guilty or anything, just as it was, okay? He frowned and his grip became less tight. Agneta came and pulled you away. I sank again, but suddenly Diego's hand, with a leather glove on it, pulled me up. He wore his leather suit and everything and rode a motorcycle in the middle of the rapids. You know how stupid dreams can be. He held me and I rushed along. I told him to steer to the beach, but he didn't listen. We just continued. I was no longer drowning, but something was still wrong. Then I heard a roar that got stronger and stronger. We were heading towards a waterfall. I tried to swim away, but like in all dreams, I couldn't get anywhere. Then Diego and I flew over the edge. He had listened intently and was surprised when she stopped. Then what? She glanced at him and shrugged. I woke up. Abruptly she stood up. Hey, who cares? It was just a dream. Let's gather all the stuff so we can all go home before this night turns into day, shall we? He stayed sitting on the floor when she walked away to continue with gathering mics and cables. I shout and shout. I reach for her, but I can't help her. She doesn't want to take my outstretched hand. I need to throw in a life buoy. How do I get her to listen? Who would she listen to? While formulating the question, he came up with the answer. He slapped himself with the palm of his hand on his forehead. Why had he not thought about that before?